All right, get ready, because today we're going deep, really deep, into some of the most clever marketing campaigns ever.
Oh, yeah.
These aren't just like your average ads, we're
Yeah.
going way beyond that.
Right.
We're talking about the campaigns that totally shifted industries and got people thinking differently, and sometimes even literally thinking differently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for this deep dive, we're using the hidden forces of marketing, case studies that redefined the game, as our guide.
Great source.
Yeah, it's an awesome book. It's
Yeah.
just packed with really fascinating examples. And what you're going to learn is how these brands figured out how to go way beyond just selling products.
Right. Right.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
One of the things that just really fascinates me about these case studies is how these brands, how they figured out how to tap into like these deep-seated psychological principles,
Yeah.
to build these really powerful emotional connections
Yeah.
with their audiences.
Sure.
It's not just about like a catchy slogan, right?
Yeah.
It's about creating a sense of identity
Yeah.
and belonging.
Totally. So that's exactly what we're going to explore today.
Awesome.
And I think there's no better place to start than with a tech giant that's basically synonymous with, like sleek design
Yeah.
and cutting edge innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Apple.
Love it.
So think back to the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
The tech world was just obsessed with specs, like faster processors,
Yeah.
more memory, like a total feature frenzy.
Totally.
But Apple, they took a completely different approach.
They did, yeah, absolutely. Instead of getting like caught up in the whole specs arms race,
Yeah.
Apple, they decided to focus on something way more powerful.
Mm.
A brand identity.
Totally.
And their Think Different campaign, it wasn't about the product itself, you know? It was about aligning with like a certain mindset,
Yeah.
a way of life.
Totally. Remember those iconic black and white ads?
Oh, yeah.
Like Albert Einstein and Martin Luther King Jr. and all those other visionaries?
Yeah, it was genius.
It was amazing. And like, you weren't just buying a computer, you were like joining a tribe
Totally.
of like rebels and innovators.
Exactly.
It was like aspirational marketing.
At its finest.
At its finest.
And it was incredibly effective.
It was.
By positioning themselves as the brand for like the people who dared to challenge,
Yeah.
the status quo.
Yeah.
Apple was able to command a premium price
Right.
and attract like a really like fiercely loyal
Oh, for sure.
customer base.
They still have that.
They do, and you can really see like the impact of this,
Totally.
in their in the surge of Apple's market share
Yeah.
between 1997 and 2001.
Yeah, it's really amazing how they were able to tap into that desire
Ah.
to be different, to stand out from the crowd,
Yeah.
and turn it into like this powerful marketing strategy.
Mhm.
But I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Apple, they've always kind of been masters at creating a sense of exclusivity, even with like their product launches and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's a psychological principle like at play here.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's called the scarcity principle.
Okay.
And basically by limiting availability and creating like this sense of exclusivity,
Yeah.
Apple makes their products even more desirable.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that age-old saying,
Yeah.
want what you can't have.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of tapping into desires and maybe even courting some controversy,
Oh,
let's move on to another brand that's known for kind of pushing boundaries.
okay.
Nike.
Right.
Their Dream Crazy campaign with Colin Kaepernick
Yeah.
definitely sparked a lot of conversation.
It did.
And I mean, there's some really strong reactions, too.
Oh, yeah.
So for those who maybe don't remember, Kaepernick was a football player who became a very polarizing figure
Yeah.
for kneeling during the national anthem to protest, racial injustice.
Right, right. Yeah, choosing Kaepernick as the face of their campaign
Mm.
was a really bold move, especially,
It was a bold move.
considering the strong feelings, surrounding the issue.
Yeah.
But Nike, I think they knew their target audience,
Yeah.
which was, primarily like younger generations
Mm-hmm.
who really valued brands
Yeah.
that aligned with their values.
Yeah.
Even if those values weren't universally shared.
Right.
This wasn't just a marketing campaign.
It wasn't.
This is a statement.
It was a statement for sure. And
Yeah.
it was a statement that resonated like really deeply with their audience.
It-
The Dream Crazy campaign, it wasn't just about athleticism. It
Yeah.
was about resilience,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming obstacles, standing up for what you believe in,
Totally.
even in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing that ad and just feeling like this sense of empowerment,
Yeah, me too.
Like, oh, I could achieve anything. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the genius of this campaign is that, it really lies in its ability to tap into this deep-seated human need, the need to belong.
Mm-hmm.
So by aligning with a social cause
Yeah.
and taking a stand on like a controversial issue,
Right.
Nike effectively created a tribe
Yeah.
for, those who shared those values.
Totally.
It wasn't just about buying shoes anymore.
Right.
It was about being part of a movement.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, the results were undeniable.
They were.
Nike's online sales
Yeah.
increased by 31%
Wow.
after the campaign launched.
That's huge.
Yeah, proven that sometimes taking a risk
Yeah.
and standing up for what you believe in
Mm.
can actually lead to, greater brand loyalty and market success.
Cool.
It's a pretty powerful lesson for any brand, I think,
It is.
that's trying to navigate, today's increasingly complex social landscape. But
Right.
let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
from athletic wear and move into the world of electric cars.
Ooh. All right. So we've seen how Apple and Nike, they appeal to like individual desires and aspirations. Right?
Yeah.
But our next brand,
Yeah.
they tapped into like this collective longing
Okay.
for a better future.
Right?
They didn't just sell a product.
Yeah.
They sold a vision of what the world could be.
Ooh.
We're talking about
I'm intrigued.
Tesla
Okay.
and their The Future Is Now campaign.
All right, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Tesla wasn't just selling electric cars. They
No.
were selling like a lifestyle, a commitment to sustainability, and
Yeah.
like this belief in the power of innovation.
Totally.
They positioned themselves as the leaders of this whole electric revolution, and people were so eager to jump on board.
They were. They were.
Yeah.
Tesla understood that people, they don't just buy
Yeah.
products.
Right.
They buy into stories.
Yeah.
And the story that Tesla was telling was one of progress,
Mm-hmm.
of a future where technology could solve, some of the world's biggest problems like climate
Mhm.
change.
Yeah, for sure. They weren't afraid to like challenge the status quo
Right.
to disrupt an entire industry that had been doing things the same way for decades.
Right.
And that boldness, I think, really resonated with consumers,
Yeah.
especially those who were looking for a way to like align their purchasing decisions
Yeah.
with their values.
Yeah.
Tesla became way more than just a car company. It
It's
became like a symbol of a better future.
Totally. And their marketing reflected that.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on like traditional advertising,
Yeah.
they leverage social media, word of mouth marketing, and even, their CEO's larger than life personality
Right.
to create a buzz and generate, excitement around the brand.
Yeah. Speaking of larger than life personalities, let's talk about a brand that took like a completely different approach
Okay.
to connecting with its audience, Dove, with their groundbreaking Real Beauty campaign. Really challenged the unrealistic beauty standards that were perpetuated by the media
Mm-hmm.
and the advertising industry.
Yeah.
And this campaign was like a game changer, especially back in 2004 when it launched.
Oh, absolutely. At a time, when the beauty industry was
Yeah.
all about airbrush perfection.
Yeah.
Dove chose to feature,
Yeah.
real women.
Yeah.
With all of their so-called imperfections.
Yes.
And they celebrated diversity,
Really?
and challenged the very definition of beauty, which had, for so long, been so narrowly defined
Yeah.
by the media.
Right. Think about like those powerful images of women of different shapes and sizes and ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't models.
Right.
They were everyday women who, embraced their individuality.
Yes.
And it was such a radical departure from those like typical beauty ads.
Yeah.
And it resonated so deeply with consumers who were just tired of feeling inadequate.
They were, yeah. And Dove tapped into, like, this really powerful psychological principle here.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. People are naturally drawn to brands that are genuine
Right.
and transparent
Yeah.
and relatable.
Totally.
So by showing real women,
yeah.
Dove created a sense of trust and connection with their audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It felt real and it felt empowering.
It did. And
Yeah.
I mean, the results, they speak for themselves.
They do.
Dove's sales increased by a whopping, get this,
Yeah.
700%
Wow, that's incredible.
over the next decade.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they prove that authenticity and inclusivity aren't just buzzwords,
Right.
They're powerful marketing strategies
Yeah.
that can drive real business results.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a lesson that's like more relevant than ever in today's world where,
Right.
Consumers are increasingly seeking brands that reflect their values and make them feel good about
Yeah.
themselves. But let's take a trip to like the luxurious side of the spectrum.
Ooh, okay. All right. So we've seen how brands, can appeal to our desire for belonging,
Yeah.
our need for authenticity, and our aspirations for a better future, right?
Right.
But what about our desire for luxury?
That's right.
For beauty, for those things that make us feel, special and indulgent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm listening.
That's where our next brand comes in,
Okay.
Gucci, with their The Pursuit of Love campaign.
Ooh, interesting.
This campaign wasn't about, you know, showcasing those traditional trappings of wealth and status.
Yeah.
It went deeper, like exploring the universal desire for love, connection, and self-expression.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Gucci understood that luxury is no longer just about like material possessions.
Okay.
It's about experiences,
Right.
emotions, and self-discovery.
Yeah.
They tapped into like a desire for something more meaningful, a longing for connection and authenticity in a world that can often feel,
Yeah.
superficial.
Right.
So instead of focusing on like their products in a traditional sense, they created a series of short films and imagery
Oh, okay.
that evoke this sense of freedom, romance, adventure.
Bro.
It was about embracing life to the fullest,
Right.
pursuing your passions and expressing your individuality.
That's powerful.
And they did it with a sense of artistry and beauty
Yeah.
that was uniquely Gucci.
Yeah.
They weren't just selling handbags and shoes.
Right.
They were selling a lifestyle, a feeling, an aspiration.
Yeah, it worked.
And it worked. Gucci's global sales
Yeah.
jumped 40%
Wow.
after the campaign launch, proving that even in like the world of high fashion,
Yeah.
emotional connection is key.
It's so fascinating.
It is.
How these brands, how they're able to tap into those like deep-seated human desires
Yeah.
and translate them into these successful marketing campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more brand I want to talk about today.
Okay.
One that's been like a master of marketing for over a century. Coca-Cola.
Ah, yes. Coca-Cola, they've been selling happiness in a bottle
They have
for generations.
for a long time.
But what's really interesting to me
Yeah.
is how they've evolved their marketing over the years to,
Yeah.
stay relevant
Yeah.
and continue to like connect with their audience
Mm.
on an emotional level.
Yeah.
Their Happiness Factory campaign from 2006
Yeah.
is a great example of this.
Oh, remember those like whimsical animated ads?
I do.
They took us on a journey inside a Coca-Cola vending machine,
It did, yeah.
revealing this magical world where happiness was bottled up and shared.
It was pure marketing magic.
It was pure market and magic. It was amazing.
It was.
And those ads, they tapped into like this universal human need, the desire for joy, connection, and shared moments of happiness. They turned something as simple as like a soft drink into like a symbol of those positive emotions.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about quenching your thirst.
No.
It was about sharing a moment of happiness with someone you care about.
Totally. And it worked brilliantly.
It did.
Coca-Cola's market share continued to grow, demonstrating the enduring power of emotional connection.
It's true.
Even for a brand as established as Coca-Cola.
Right. So we've seen how brands like Apple, Nike, Tesla, Dove, Gucci, and Coca-Cola have used, these sophisticated marketing strategies to connect with their audiences on a deeper level.
Totally.
They've appealed to, our desires, our values, our emotions, creating this sense of identity and belonging that goes way beyond just selling products.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that these campaigns span different industries, they target different demographics, they use different creative approaches, but they all share one key ingredient: a deep understanding of human psychology.
That's right. And it's
and that's why it's so fascinating to study these cases, because you can really see how the psychology is at play and how they're really tapping into our deepest desires and motivations. And it makes you wonder how much of our decision making is really conscious,
right.
And how much of it is influenced by these subtle cues and messages that are all around us.
That's a great point, and that actually leads perfectly into the next section that I wanted to get into with you, which is how can we, as consumers, be more aware of these tactics that are being used and make sure that we're not just being,
Right.
manipulated.
Manipulated by clever marketing. Exactly. I think, that's such an important question.
It is.
And I think it starts with,
Yeah.
being more mindful of our own emotions and reactions to,
Marketed messages. So like when you see an ad, that really grabs your attention, right?
Yeah.
Ask yourself why.
Okay.
What is it about that ad that resonates with you?
Yeah.
What need or desire is it tapping into?
Yeah, it's like being a detective, right?
Exactly.
Trying to like decipher those hidden messages behind,
Yes.
those glossy images and the catchy slogans.
Exactly. And once you, once you start to see those patterns, you can be more discerning about, the brands that you choose to support.
Okay.
Ask yourself if their values align with yours.
Yeah.
Are they promoting a message that you genuinely believe in?
Right.
Or are they just trying to exploit, your insecurities or aspirations for profit?
Right. It's about taking back control.
It is.
And being like a conscious consumer.
Yes.
Making informed decisions about, what we buy, what we wear, what we allow to influence our lives.
Absolutely. Now remember, you always have a choice.
You do.
You don't have to buy into every,
totally,
marketing message that's thrown at you.
Yeah.
You have the power to decide,
right,
what resonates with you and what you want to support.
For sure.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this first part of our deep dive into the psychology of marketing, what would you say, like, the key takeaway is for our listeners so far?
I think, the biggest takeaway is that marketing is a powerful force.
Yeah.
And understanding, like, the psychology behind it can really empower us to, make more informed choices.
For sure.
As consumers by being aware of, like, the tactics brands use to influence our decisions.
Yeah.
We can be more critical, more discerning, and ultimately,
right,
more in control of our own lives.
That's a great point. So we've gone from think different to dream crazy to real beauty. And it's clear, right, that the most successful brands are the ones that really understand the power of emotional connection. They're not just selling products or services. Right. They're selling like experiences, ideas, and a sense of belonging.
That's right.
So the next time you see a compelling ad, don't just scroll past it, Yeah. Take a moment to really think about what's being sold. What emotions are they trying to evoke?
Right.
What need are they trying to fulfill?
Exactly.
And most importantly, ask yourself, is this a message that you really want to buy into?
I think that's such a powerful question to ask yourself.
It is.
Because we are bombarded with, thousands of marketing messages every day.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so easy to just, passively consume them.
Yeah.
Without really thinking about,
right,
the impact that they're having on us. But when we start to pay attention, when we start to ask those critical questions, that's when we can really start to take back control and make choices that are aligned with our values.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a great place to wrap up this first part
of
our deep dive into the psychology of marketing.
Sounds good.
So we'll be back in just a minute with part 2.
Can't wait.
Where we'll delve even deeper into the fascinating world of marketing and consumer behavior.
It's going to be good.
It is going to be good.
All right, see you soon.
See ya.
Okay, so where were we?
We were talking about how brands are really tapping into, like, our desire for belonging, our need for authenticity, and, like, our aspirations for a bit of a future.
Exactly, and it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much of our decision-making when it comes to brands and buying stuff, how much of it is, like, really conscious?
Yeah.
How much of it is influenced by these subtle cues and messages that we're seeing all the time?
That's such a good point, and it kind of makes you wonder if we're really in control,
Right, exactly.
Or if we're just, like, puppets on a string.
Kind of makes you question everything, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. So how can we, like, as consumers, be more aware of these tactics that are being used?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How can we make sure we're not just being manipulated?
Right, exactly.
By, like, all this clever marketing that's out there.
Totally.
Well, I think, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Like, just being more aware of our own emotions.
Okay.
And how we react to, these marketing messages that we see all the time.
Right.
Like, for example, when you see an ad that just totally grabs your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop and ask yourself why. Like, why does this ad resonate with me?
Yeah.
What is it about this ad that's, like, pulling me in.
It's like being a detective almost, right?
Exactly.
Trying to figure out what the hidden message is behind,
Yes.
like the catchy slogans, the glossy images, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and once you like start to see those patterns,
yeah,
the tactics that brands are using, then you can start to be a little bit more, discerning about which brands you choose to support with your, your hard-earned dollars.
Right, makes sense.
Right, and ask yourself,
yeah.
do their values, the brand's values, do they align with my own?
Right.
Are they promoting a message that I actually believe in?
Yeah.
Or are they just trying to,
yeah.
prey on my insecurities or my aspirations just to make a profit?
Right. It's about taking control and being like a conscious consumer.
It is. It's about being an informed consumer.
Right.
And making choices that are aligned with,
yeah.
what you believe in.
Yeah, totally.
And remember, you always have a choice.
You do.
You don't have to buy into every marketing message that's thrown at you.
We have the power to decide
you do.
what we want to support.
You have the power to vote with your wallet.
I like that. Vote with your wallet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up this part of our deep dive, what have we learned?
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway?
Yeah, what's the big, lesson here?
The big lesson is that marketing is a powerful force.
Okay.
And understanding the psychology behind it,
yeah,
it could really empower us as consumers. When we understand the tactics that brands are using to influence us, we can start to be more critical, more discerning, and ultimately more in control of our own lives and our own choices.
Yeah, and like we were saying before, it's not always easy to spot these tactics, right?
It's not. It's subtle.
It's subtle.
It's very sophisticated.
Yeah, but once you start to see the patterns,
it's
like, oh, okay, I get it now.
You start to see it everywhere.
You do.
It's kind of eye-opening.
It is. It's like a whole new world has opened up to you.
And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Exactly.
So just remember, you have the power
we do
to choose. You get to decide what you support, what resonates with you, and what you want to buy into.
All right. Well said. I think that's a great place to wrap up the second part of our deep dive into the psychology of marketing.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in just a minute with part 3 where we'll continue this conversation.
Looking forward to it.
See you soon.
It's funny because we've been talking about all these big brands.
Yeah.
Apple, Nike, Tesla, Dove, Gucci, Coca-Cola. And it seems like they've all figured out this secret formula, right? Like they know how to tap into our deepest desires, our values, our aspirations.
Yeah.
And they use that to create these really powerful emotional connections with us.
Totally.
But it makes you wonder, can any brand do this?
That's a good question.
Or is it just these mega corporations with, massive marketing budgets?
I mean, they definitely have an advantage, right?
Yeah, they do. But I don't think it's impossible for smaller brands to do this too.
Okay.
I think the key is authenticity, being true to your brand's values.
Yeah.
And really understanding who your target audience is and what they care about.
Yeah, what makes them tick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, crafting a message that really resonates with them on an emotional level.
It's about building a genuine connection.
It is. It's about building a relationship.
Yeah.
Not just, trying to sell them something.
Right. It's like with people.
Right.
It's you want to build a relationship with someone. You don't just want to sell them something.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's about finding common ground, building trust, and creating a sense of shared values.
So it sounds like authenticity is the secret sauce.
I think it's a big part of it, yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just about being honest and transparent.
Okay.
It's also about being vulnerable.
Interesting.
Okay. Letting your guard down a little bit and showing your human side.
So not being afraid to show your flaws.
Yeah, because I think people, they can spot a fake a mile away.
They can.
And they're much more likely to connect with a brand that's, real and relatable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Than one that's trying to be something it's not.
Totally.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of marketing, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that marketing, it's not just about selling products, It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
It's about understanding their needs, their desires, their aspirations, and using that understanding to create a message that truly resonates with them.
Yeah, it's about building relationships, not just transactions.
Absolutely. And it's about remembering that at the end of the day, we're all human.
We are.
And we all crave connection and belonging.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a great place to wrap up this episode of our deep dive into the psychology of marketing.
Sounds good.
So, to all of our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.